I am Christopher Luanga, and together with Chance, we both are the founders of Kachikena, and we're happy to have you to talk to us about your area of expertise. Um, I think we like to keep it, you're the expert, so you go in the direction you best consider would be useful for listeners, um, both in Malawi as well as abroad in general. I think Chance may have talked to you about us already, but really the company we have, the idea is that we know that there are technologies where you are, that are not super complex, and they can be implemented in advanced communities and help communities advance in Malawi. You know what I mean? Like, so we know that some skills are not as complex as they are if they are presented appropriately, if they're taught by people who have a passion for what they're doing. Like, people see that, okay, this thing can be simplified to a degree where anyone can do it. So we believe that technology is an enabler, but we also believe that the best way for people to know how to do something is they have to do it. So we hope that experts like you can share with us the practical ways that you are using the skills you have, so that our audience members can also get started implementing in one way or another. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me to the series. Well, first off, I'm really not an expert. I'm just a student, and both ways, a student and also like student, I'm still studying. So I wouldn't call myself an expert. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice thing you've got going here. Getting different people, different views, especially from people around the continent. I'm in Mozambique, where I studied in South Africa, so I've got kind of experiences from both sides. And you're coming from Malawi, so we're neighbors in some ways. So it's nice to also have that sharing of space and platform and ideas, just so that we can all learn and grow and make Africa what it actually should be like, instead of what it is, for various reasons, which we will not get into today. Yeah, so I mean, it's a very big question you've asked, and I'll try to break it down into different parts. So just to begin with a quick background of myself, I was basically finished my schooling in Mozambique, and then I went to do higher studies. So bachelor's, honors, and now I'm doing my master's in the University of Cape Town in South Africa. So I started with computer science and business computing, which is information systems light, without doing all the other commerce subjects, and from undergrad. And then I went on to do honors in information systems. Just a brief on that is because I found that computer science is very much technical. That's not that I don't like technical, but I just like the bigger picture as well, not just the development part, but also looking at the bigger picture, as well as the social implications, social, cultural, and all other implications that comes in with technology. So as you mentioned, technology is an enabler and not the silver bullet that sometimes it's made out to be. So that's why I shifted to information systems, and I did my honors, and at the moment I'm doing my master's in my second year. So you could say I was doing something, but not really doing much. But for example, in my first year, when I just learned how to code in Python, or even in Java, when I came back home, there's some kind of work to do in Excel. My dad was using an Excel file to record sales of every day. So you've got quantity, product name, and total, and then dates for that day, and then you get the total, and then you've got that information down for every day. So at the end of, let's say, like 3 months, you've got a couple of, a lot of rows that you need to extract or scroll up and down just to get the date and total for that, just to get that monthly report. So obviously, when I was home, the work came to me to do it, and me being a lazy person, lazy is the key to success, I guess. So, I decided to try to do what I've learned with coding, and I made a program, just like a nice little script in Python, and then I lost that script. So when I came back in the December holidays, I did it in Java, and I processed the Excel file just to extract the information. So it probably took me more time than it would have done by scrolling up and down that first 2 times. But in my mind, I was doing it for the next time I come back. So I wouldn't have to spend another 2 hours. I just put in the initial investment and get the returns for the next time. that was my first year, and then I almost a bit forgot about it. I think in my second year, not much really happened in terms of, so I'm basically taking you to the path of, the life or the road of automation I've come to. So in my third year, I had a friend of mine, lecture friend that became friends due to circumstances on campus. So I got a message from him saying that, listen, we've got an Excel mark sheet we use. So pretty much, question 1, question 2, question 3. And then for each student, we've got, I don't remember if it's second or third year. I think it was third year, but forgive me, I don't really remember the years. But the general idea was that, he had one Excel sheet, and then they would give it to tutors, and the tutors would have to mark per student. So you can imagine they would use one Excel file, put the marks, save as, and then use the Excel file again, save as. So obviously one of the problems that used to happen was sometimes you'd save over the wrong person's name. Sometimes you would lose your data because you forgot to copy the file or save as and you saved it. These issues were happening. So he told me, you're a comp sci guy, can't you just give me something? He said, I went online, I couldn't find it. But can't you give me something where I've got one Excel file and I can just create a copy of that Excel file with the names of the students? So in other words, one student gets one mark sheet. So he said, even if I start copy pasting, to renaming it is going to take too much time, and we've got like 200, 300 students. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll look into it, I sat down, Googled here and there, 15, 20, half an hour, 45 minutes later, came up with something and sent it to him. So it was my first time doing it. So obviously I had no idea about the best ways of doing it. So I sent him the Python file. I told him, you need to download Python to your computer. They followed the instructions, they downloaded Python, and then he had the tool, the Python file, basically the program with him, the source code, and he was running it, and things were working for him. Fast forward a bit more towards the end of my third year. I decided, so back then I was just finishing, I was, was it? Yeah, sorry, it was, so then in my honors, then COVID happened. So back then I was still running TV Series Hub, right? Entertainment site I had going. So that was sort of keeping me occupied on the side. Not really occupied, but I'll be busy because of campus and life. So I didn't really have a lot of time. It was just managing of the things. So COVID happened and life slowed down quite a bit. And then I realized, I started questioning myself, what am I doing with my life? And is this really, the future, or what is the future in having an entertainment site and stuff? The whole glamour life just stopped being that kind of thing. Blue checks are just blue checks now. They're not really a thing for me anymore. So in that kind of sense, then, some had an experience and ended up deciding to shut TV Series Up down in my honors. So obviously, whenever you've got something I put 5 years into it, right? So shutting it down, it's obviously going to put you down. And that thing of you going online on LinkedIn, especially, where you find founder of this, founder of that, CEO of this, and I don't know, starter of this startup, this post, and then now you're like the guy who always used to have founder of something. Now you're no longer a founder of anything. So always, every time I used to open LinkedIn, at some point it used to hit me, and you're like, man, when am I going to do my next thing? So towards that year, then I think we did a system development project, which at honors level for information systems at my university, we do a whole system. So I worked on this dashboard for a farm. It connected, they've got a farm, they put probes inside and connects to this machine, which transmits information about the probe. So basically the sunlight level, the water level, all this stuff then comes to a server or to a database somewhere, right? So the server comes in and you need to process it and then store the information. So my job was to basically work with that information, as in with my team, right? So we were working on creating a dashboard to best display the information, generate reports, put in those things of notifications if things are going low, inform the person that, hey, you need to go and water your farm and stuff like that. So once it was a very hectic year. Honors is a very hectic year for the information systems degree. But towards the end of that year, then, once you hit your final submission, you're all happy and stuff. Then I was like, maybe I should really look into doing something automation related. So by then I had, the Excel. So by then I had already picked up a bit more tricks because of having a whole year of exposure with the system development course. So I decided to start with, one-click solutions and automating boring as the motto I like to use. But basically, throughout that year, I always kept on, trying to find a better way of doing things. Instead of giving someone a Python file or program, people don't really know how to run it. So it was like, how do I give somebody something like when you get a Windows, you get an exe file to install stuff. And I was like, how do I do that myself? That give someone an exe file so they can install my programs and stuff. So I found some things online. I started using them. So then I made installers as well. You download an installer and then you run it. You click next, it downloads for you. It wasn't really an installer. It was like an extractor, but it looks like an installer. So it's like unzipping a program, except that it's just coming in that setup kind of fancy way when you download programs, right? So I started using that way, and I had, when I did the Excel replicator, and then I shifted the source code Python script into a Python program, as in like an exe program. So you now had an Excel replicator.exe file, and I had the installer and stuff. So when I saw that you could do replicator this way, then I made a word replicator, and I also made a file replicator. By file, it means you can replicate any kind of file. So typical scenarios would be, to make your life easy with HR forms, for naming conventions. Sometimes people don't really name the file properly. And again, this was just my startings. I was just thinking of silly little things to make better, which people don't really care. So when someone sends you an attachment and it has those brackets 1, 2, or they change the name in a very weird way, or you just download it and now you don't really, if you don't organize the file at that time, you won't know who sent you what. You're just going to have a bunch of same document names like HR form 101 or something, or HR 101 form .docx, and you got HR 101 brackets parentheses 1, parentheses 2. Now you don't really know who sent what. So with that thing in mind, then I was like, as an HR person, you could replicate those files, put in the name of the people and send it to them. And then they would simply just need to send it back to you, but now you've got that name there, so you don't have to worry about who sent what file. So, small things. So then I launched the one-click solutions, got the site running and stuff. Then I got a bit of a break when I started doing masters. So that's the biggest blessing of masters was, getting exposure to more automation stuff. So it just so happened that at the start of the year, the same course that I was doing in my honors. So what the department does is they contact companies to give projects, right? So they send emails to people and tell them like, listen, we've got this project we want you to submit. Please fill in this form to give us projects. So I was, the course convener, or basically the head, the head lecturer for that course, basically was, got in touch with me because I was doing a master's as well, and I've always been passionate about teaching and stuff. So, she got back to me and told me, listen, how about you join this course and help us with a bit of marking and feedback and this and that. I was like, hey, I would love that. So that's when I joined, and we were having a chat, and she said that, listen, I need to send email to around 200 people, and I want to make it a bit more personalized instead of saying dear sponsor or dear donor or dear someone, dear X. I want to say dear Chansey or dear Christopher. And I was like, hey, but give me some time, I'll look into it. And that's the tool that I ended up making, which was the mass email program, which allows you to send an email in bulk, but then you can put in specific, words that are dynamic. So the email will then go dear Chansey, and then paste that information, and then put whatever links you want. So now it was sending an email to around 200, I think 150, 200 people, and it sent it from that person's inbox, right? So you just need to have Outlook downloaded. And from that person's inbox, it sent to 150 people with a specific thing, with dear Christopher, dear Chansey, and 150 people got an email. So that was another tool which came into the belt. So little by little now, I started seeing that this actually might, there's some kind of benefit to what I'm doing. So then we had, a presentation coming up. And when the presentation came in now, it was COVID now, 2020, still COVID-ish, right? So things were still happening online, and people were marking. Before, it used to be on a piece of paper, they would put the marks and comments, but now they're using Word documents. So again, we were chatting, and my lecturer was like, if you can find a way to get all these people's comments in one place. So imagine we've got 10 teams or 14 teams, and you've got 5 people in the panel. So each person has one Word document to mark per team. So if it's 10 teams and there's 5 markers at 50 Word documents that the head lecturer then needs to go and compile. So 5 markers per team, 5 mark sheets per team, 5 comments from 5 different people per team. And then you need to combine them together to form the feedback form that goes back to the students. So find a way to actually, make this easier, I'll be very grateful. I was like, hey, let me look into it. And managed to come up with a presentation marketing automation tool from here. So, using the, in actual fact, before that, I made to generate those mark sheets, because it's one template Excel mark sheet, Word document mark sheet, we now needed to create one mark sheet or one Word document mark sheet per marker. So that meant, you had to create 50 Word documents. So to read that information, you also needed to have something to read from to be able to know which marker filled in what. So then I created a document generator program, which creates, which allows you to fill in tags in a Word document. So if you got, let's say you've got a HR form and you want to appoint 5 different people, instead of using one Word document, replacing name, save as, you could now just literally have one template and then put in an Excel file the name of 5 people. You run the program, it'll give you 5 Word documents with different people's name. Sort of like mail branch idea in Outlook, which I didn't know existed. That's why the first tool came to be. But now in Word document, right? So this came out to be, then I made a tool to extract all the comments and give you one Word document per team, right? So you now got 50 mark sheets become into 10 mark sheets by combining everyone's comments and marks. So, this was the second step, and this one became a better version when I was part of another course, and the lecturer was like, I'd love to see what people are giving as marks, the people on the panel, so I can almost gauge and see, moderate the marks. So from there, the same thing, then I started extracting the marks and creating a grades file using an Excel sheet, a CSV file in actual fact. And, the CSV file now gave you each team, each question, each marker's grades and the total and averages. So what I'm basically trying to see, it's been a journey of improvement. So a CSV file, if you're not really familiar with it, is a Excel file, except that it doesn't really hold formatting or anything. It just takes in, or even formulas. It just takes in data, and it uses a comma or a semicolon to separate the information. So it's very lightweight. It's used more for programming, but it's really easy to make because you don't have to worry about making an Excel file, using an Excel library, writing to an Excel, and it's just a bit more complex. So little by little, as things started improving, then there was more things I was part of. I started automating those, and so basically the whole last year was basically getting some exposure especially in the educational field. So educational field, if I sit with any educator, I can pretty much tell them the problems they face in the daily life, and I can tell them how to solve the problems because I've been doing this for almost a year and a half now in the educational field. So from there on, as time went on, then I also then began to make things a bit more friendly. So previously you had to kind of, for example, there was no interfaces. It was just, the command prompt you've got in Windows, and then you had to also place files in a folder or put something in a proper structure. So I started improving those. So now you no longer needed to, put a file somewhere. You can select the file you want to use to process, or you want to select your mark sheet to replicate. Find your mark sheet, click on it, press that file explorer box which shows to save a file, for example. Same thing shows up, and you open a file. So little by little, the improvements started coming in the experience of the people. And now, for example, when I'm making tools now, I give you an Excel sheet with formatting now. So it's no longer a CSV file, which some people couldn't open because of different versions of Excel. Now I give you an Excel file itself, which is the XLSX file, right? And then you get formatting. I can put bold and, make color, background, and blah, blah, all that stuff now. So from last year up to now, that thing has sort of changed from giving the first person just got code to now a person getting something with some sort of, an interface, like you use your computer when you want to open a file or save a file. So all the things now start happening. So little by little now you can see that, the growth has been happening this way. And that's basically, the journey of how automation works and the background of myself. Now, going to the second part of your question. The learning of it. So basically, you do learn how to code and stuff, but I believe, the same degree I did, we started with around 600 people in the first year course and down to 300. End of the year, there's almost 100 people graduated with the same exact degree I did. So it's not just about the learning to code a degree, but rather, I think it's also about the analysis of it or understanding how things work. And so it's almost like both the technical and the non-technical skill. The analysis of it, the looking at things, understanding how things work, and how to improve them. And I think the information systems side of the degree for this part, because the computer science part gave me the technical part, but this one gave me those skills in practice, which are non-technical. So But even then, you don't really, the coding part, you basically, as anyone can tell you, you Google most of your life. So the coding part has been, and you learn how to code. From there, you're just Googling on building on your own basis on what you know. So, but one of the things that I've always tried to maintain is offline access because of the context we live in. Take Mozambique, internet is not an easy way. You can always have constant connection, electricity can go, and things can happen. So one of the things that I always try to do was to make sure that all the tools I make run in an offline environment as much as they can. So the second aspect as well has been, I try to automate a task or improve an entire process. So for example, if you've got some sort of application process going on where someone needs to come in, apply, and they need to review their application and do something. So I'll come in, look at your entire process, and then suggest ways to improve everything, whether you need the tool or not. So I've almost shifted now from just making tools to looking at an entire process and trying to make it better by proposing different tools to use, and also while sticking to a nice budget. So two to three things that I always guarantee you now is almost 90 to 95% you've got offline access. You don't really need the internet to run these tools. So this really helps with the environment or context we live in, especially in Mozambique, for example. And the second thing is now I try to make it as simple as possible so that you don't really need to have technical skills. You just need to know how to use a computer, how to click on a file, and how to select a file. That's basically the most you'll have to do, or maybe fill an Excel file with information to create other files. But that's basically, in other words, there's really no coding skills necessary for the person. And also you don't really need to be technically savvy to use it. So that's the second thing I try to do now is I'm giving you something which is easy to use without the need to be a technical expert or someone with a degree or something. Anyone can use it as long as you show them how to do it and they do it 5 times as an example. Somebody with really low skills, they just repeat the thing 5 times, they'll learn it. So a small example is I made a tool which extracts information from a Word document. So this was for sports and again at my university. So there's around 40 clubs, and these clubs then submit a Word document which composes the composition of the committee, the chair, the vice, their email, the student number and phone number and stuff like that. So basically, I created a Word document, changed the structure from the previous way, created a new Word document, and then created a tool which extracts the information from there. And just by doing that, previously they were using a Word document going through emails. So I changed the email way to using a submission to a Google Drive submission. So now people go to Google Drive, they submit it. The person then at the end downloads the thing, runs the program, and from spending around 15 to 20 minutes processing one application, this person gets the entire application done in 5 minutes. Then they get one Excel file. So this was before I learned how to use Excel properly for formatting. So they would get one Excel file and they also need to format it themselves. But even that's like a one-time job that they have to do, and then it's done. So you can kind of see how, and this person is not even a technical person. I mean, degree-wise, they didn't do anything related to tech. And I showed them how to use the tool, and they managed to do it. They managed to learn things in like 15 minutes. So it's that easy to use. Like another example was during COVID times, people had to create COVID letters to get permission to go to campus to train on a field. So that meant that every student needed access letters. So there was a time where around 200 students sent requests for access, and it was taking me 2 weeks and nothing happened. So I made this tool which creates access letters, the one I just told you, the example of creating an HR appointment form, the exact same tool. I call it the document generator. And that tool basically, using an Excel sheet, it generates, using a template file, generates that many files with the information you want to add, with dynamic content in it, right? So if you want to put in a name, a surname, a number, a contact number, an email address, for each file, you can do that, create one file per one person, right? So that person learned how to use that in 15 minutes. So they started doing it themselves. They didn't even talk to me again about that thing till the COVID letters fell away, so they no longer need to use it. So you can kind of see that it's easy to use. The other thing I make sure to do is I guarantee you a 90% improvement, whether it's in time. So for example, if it takes you 10 hours to do a work, then you'll do this whole work in 1 hour, your whole process, right? For example, if you process an application in let's say 10 minutes, now it's going to take you 1 minute to do it. And then, or if you used to have 10 mistakes, you'll now have 1 mistake. So because it's semi-automated, so I'm not building a fancy system. I'm not competing with a system. Those are next level guys. And again, system again, it's not really, especially in the context of Mozambique, we're not really that point where everyone can have a system, afford it, or even know how to use it. So I'm almost in the space of people really manual and moving them to almost a semi-automatic space. And that means that, a speed up of 90% is already massive for you. And on average, I've had speed ups of 95%, I have speed ups of 92%, some places 85%. Generally speaking, 90% on average, I almost like calculated the speed that I had. It gives you in the amount of time in terms of work. So in a human equivalent way, 10 hours usually doesn't happen in one day. You'll do it over 2-3 days. But I'm using hours as a straight workout. So that's something to note, that something which might take you 3 days to do, this program will do it for you in less than 5 minutes. The things I make. And lastly, what I try to do is I give you a context-specific tool. So one of the things that you find online is that they're generic stuff. You want to convert something, you find it online. But what if you want to convert it to a certain way that you want, or you want to convert it to a certain size, or you want to be super big, so what I basically do is then I give you something that works for you. And the reason why I also don't get worried that people might share the program is because if you doing exactly what the person is doing, you'll be able to use it. But generally, that's not how the world works. Everyone works in their own ways. So this works only for you. So I mean, the benefit is that it's specific to you, so it's always going to work for you. But the downside is that it's not generic enough that you could always, you could use it. To do something more, you always need to come back and, upgrade or something. So those are sort of the ways I've tried to accommodate to our context and to make sure that we come into the side. So, and along the ways, I gave you examples of different things I've done. I don't really see the point of sharing videos because you'll just be looking at Excel files or Word documents or a command prompt showing up or something, and it's not really as exciting as it is to watch. But I would tell you to maybe, if you check out my LinkedIn profile, at the bottom there's projects. You'll see each project will have a link to go to a description, and it will take you to the one-click solution site, which will give you a more description of things, and as well as it'll give you a quick video on how the thing works. And lastly, I also did something. So again, this is me learning by myself, which is also what I'm trying to highlight, is that everyone, if you've got a bit of interest, you can just go out and use YouTube or resources online to learn. And what I ended up doing was I created a WhatsApp bot, and the WhatsApp bot is used as a reminder. So not everyone uses Google Calendar to remind themselves. Not everyone uses a reminder app to remind themselves. But you're always on WhatsApp, right? So something happens, someone sends you a message you want to remember, you can forward it to that number, and then you can set a time you want to get reminded, and then that number sends you a reminder. So it's basically a reminder bot. It's called Remind Me Bots. It's free till the end of the year. I'll probably make it free even for a long time. At the moment, we've got 288 users who've actually used it. So it's slowly growing itself. So, I'll stop here and then let you ask me any specific questions you've got.
No, I'm just going to say thank you for that elaborate answer. I think that there are many ways to make the world a better place, right? I think we both agree that technology will play a role. Digital technology, electricity, these are kinds of things that you're doing and we're also doing, and hoping that we can improve the state of things in Mozambique and across Africa in general, because sometimes we don't realize that we are, I guess, in competition with other folks around the world in terms of time. So if you're taking an hour when someone else is taking a minute to do the same job, obviously at the end of the year when the numbers are crunched, you'll be a less productive society, right? So sometimes you don't realize that it's not just you who is wasting time. It is just you, but so the societal level, the amount of time that we waste is a lot, right? So I really think that it's not just about automating boringness. It's really about creating a society where we're able to have a much more productive society, right? Because some tasks don't need the time that we give those tasks.
I think you can just add, I think the Mozambican environment and the Malayan environment, I know that different, and it's also one of the challenges that we actually face here in Malawi. Yeah, of course, as Chris has actually told you, that we're a technology company as well, and we're trying as much as we can to actually automate some of the things that we actually manually do. So okay, AMMAR, I think the other question that I can actually ask is what is your vision as an entrepreneur?
My one dream is obviously to have a master tool. So basically, if I automate 5 different things for you and I give you 5 tools, my dream is to have a master tool which will then allow you to control all your tools, so you don't have to work with one. So basically, automate the automation. But that's like a separate thing, you know, and that's one. But in big picture, so for me personally, what I believe is that as an IT person, everyone growing, you know, if we're talking in a business way, right? Everyone growing is also good for me, because that means that there's going to be more tech involved and more people will want to, you know, use tech and support and even programming and stuff like that. So generally speaking, advancement of everyone is also advancement for IT and tech, because that's basically the route where advancement is in today's world. If you want to really move ahead of the game, you need to upgrade your tech. That's basically the best way to do things. You know, in terms of efficiency, control, whatever you want to call it. You know, using a system will help you achieve your goals much better than any other alternative you might find that's out there. I'm not saying it's silver bullet or anything, but it's gonna help you. You know, whether you go the automation, my way of semi-manual, which give you 90% betterment, or you go to a fancy system which might give you 99% maybe, or 95% of improvement, and that automatically will, you know, make things better. So my vision basically is, you know, obviously you want to, you know, make that name for yourself and all those things there. But my main goal right now, or what I hope to do, is to see people use tech more, or, you know, adopt technology more. And for the simple reason is that, you know, it's really helpful. People just don't really have that exposure or knowledge yet to use it. So just seeing everyone improve and, you know, get their things working better, their things working faster, and get them to stop focusing on things which are meaningless. And by meaningless, I mean they don't really matter in the big picture. You know, the amount of time you waste trying to go through an Excel file to generate a report. Why not spend that time to actually look at the report and analyze it and understand it? So I want people, my goal is to have people to move away from focusing on that preparation to actually focusing on learning or understanding from the what they're trying to achieve. And you know, so my hope is everyone at least does something or has some kind of automation in their business. And automation sounds like a very fancy term. I even mean a sense of, if someone is using a paper, then they move to, you know, 1 paper per day, they move to a book per month. And if someone is using a book per month, they move to an Excel sheet for the lifetime. And they're using an Excel sheet, then they move to improving. Sorry. So Excel, you can use it one way, which is just putting random stuff, and one way is to structure it properly so that you can extract data. You know, you can process it, whether you do it in Excel or you do it in somewhere else. But that's the next step. And the next step from there is to move to almost like a semi-automatic way, or having a system. So my vision is to make sure that everyone, and this is the automation side, right, is that everyone moves from where they are to the next step. Always. Don't just get stagnant in one place, always improve. The other side, which is also what I'm doing, is, you know, creating websites and you know, for people, whether it's a business site, an e-commerce site, and I'm doing that using WordPress, not doing it from scratch. I don't have the capacity right now, but that's the second goal, is to have people move to a much more to a platform which is much more visible to others. You know, we need to move away from just selling it on the store, but rather have an online presence as well, have that customer service experience. So those are the sort of experiences that I'm hoping that people have in here, because customer service is a very horrible thing. And you call someone to come at 5 o'clock, they'll show at 5:30. Time value is not there. But you kind of, you know, these kind of things take time, and that culture changes and that habit changes. And one of the ways is to obviously, you know, create a transparent way to get to you, because now if you make a claim on your site and you don't do it, you're scared your reputation will go down. And also, you know, with the website now, you've got a central place for people to come and contact you, get to know what you do, buy things off you. So the second goal is to see everyone to move into some sort of digital presence, if they have none. And even if it's just having a social media account, or just a WhatsApp account, WhatsApp business account, but whatever it is, you know, it's to see people take that leap from having nothing to something and see how the benefits of it. And ultimately, that is the goal, to get people in Mozambique at least to move away from the heavily paper-based system to at least some sort of digital aspect of things. And just by that change itself, it's going to open so many opportunities, not just for myself, but for people like myself in the same tech sphere, or even people, you know, who have the skills but just don't have opportunities because we're still not there yet. But just making that leap, if everyone just moves away from using paper to even Excel, the opportunities we'll have will be already a lot of things happening. So end of the day, the vision is to see people at least take one step forward in their journey to improvement.